Today we want to talk about the pros and cons of returnships.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about returnships.
Yes. And there are tons out there, tons of resources. So I
Mhm.
actually think we should just start with a definition of a returnship for those in our audience who don't
Right.
know what a returnship is.
A returnship is a mid-career internship designed specifically for women and caregivers who take career breaks and want to re-enter the workplace. And they started out, the first ones were designed by a company called iRelaunch. Carol Fishman Cohen started that maybe
Like the gold
15,
star.
18 years ago. Yep. And they worked with companies to put these programs together. So typically they're 4 to 6 months long.
Right.
A woman enters, they're typically 30-ish hours per week. They're not usually full time. You're part of a cohort and it's on the job training. There is some work involved too. You're being mentored. You might be getting depending on the function and field, getting your tech skills up to date or learning a new language of social media marketing, depending on what your field is. And at the end, a smaller percentage have a guaranteed employment at the end. Most of them have the option of employment at the end based on availability of positions and the quality of your candidacy.
Right. And it's an opportunity to connect, to get yourself out there, to do some networking.
And to build your confidence. And I think the biggest value of a returnship is building the skills.
Your sea legs back.
To get your sea legs back. That is absolutely, that's that on-the-job training.
Yeah.
And the likelihood that you'll be employed, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing that we get asked this question from our students. So where and how do I land?
Right.
An internship?
So since iRelaunch, many companies now will offer services towards returnships. So Path Forward is one. The Mom Project has some as well, smaller companies. Many companies now just offer their own. And like iRelaunch might be helping manage the program from the inside, or maybe they don't. So it started out mostly with the financial companies. So most of Wall Street, the big companies have returnship programs. Tech has them, manufacturing, CPG, consumer packaged goods. I mean, we've had students in banking, but banking and tech are where we've seen most of them. Most of our students go. So they are advertised on company websites. They're advertised on the websites of the companies that we mentioned that are administering returnship programs. Honestly, we're big believers that you can create your own.
I was just going to say, sometimes
we have advised students to do that. I mean, if the employer really wants you, but you're just not quite there yet, or maybe you're not quite ready yet, maybe there's some uncertainty as to what position needs to be filled, you could propose, let's do this. For the first 4 months, let me come on as on an hourly basis on a reduced pay scale while I'm learning. And then at the end of the 4 months, we can decide what to do next. And that's something I didn't mention earlier, that all returnships are paid. They're paid at a low rate though, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about those pros and cons, right? So get that on the job.
That's
big pro on the job training. You're building your confidence back.
Getting some skills. A lot of the thing that holds women back if they've taken career breaks, particularly longer career breaks, is the technology.
Yes. Yeah.
It's something.
And we hear that. I mean, we are like on the front lines of having graduates of our programs go out, land jobs, and they will say, you know what, listen, there's a learning curve here. But it's not something to be scared.
Not at all. But the nice thing about a returnship is, think about it. You're going back to work. You've got to learn the culture of the organization, their processes, their protocols, their people.
Yeah.
And then you've got to learn technology you don't know.
Right.
That's a challenge. Right. So in this case, at least you're taking that off the table. So it's the confidence building, the skills, and those are big pros in addition to the fact that you might get a job at the end.
Exactly.
At usually a pretty reputable company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But there are some cons to a returnship. So let's just talk about those. Let's just highlight some of the cons.
I mean, so you may need a returnship.
And we've had many students that, it really was something.
The right thing.
That was the right thing.
But the biggest con is that you may not need one.
Yeah.
And one of our concerns is we've seen the popularity of returnships grow.
Right.
Is that they've become so exclusive and so competitive.
Right.
That the people who end up landing them are the women who took a 2.5 year break.
Right.
And never really even left, and they're going back into the same industry they left 2 years ago, and really you don't need a returnship for that.
Yes.
So we're worried that they're becoming so competitive that they're kind of pushing out the people who really could benefit from them the most.
Yes.
So that's one of the disadvantages of the big returnship program. We had a student recently who did have a long career break, who may have benefited herself from a returnship.
Yeah.
And what did she say? There were 3,000 applicants, and at the webinar, there were 350 people there.
Yes.
And she was looking at them, and they were all a lot younger than she was. They were a lot more digitally native than she was. But for the record, she got a job on her own without a returnship at a major California university in biotech. So what concerns us most is when you believe that's all you can get.
Yes.
Many of our students, I'm thinking of one that worked for a tech company, she really resented it when she was done. She said, I did not need this training.
Yeah.
I was being paid $35 an hour to do something that was well beneath me, while I was also doing more important work because they could see what I could do. And she just felt like she just got shortchanged.
Yes.
So there is a little bit of a balancing act here.
Absolutely.
We usually recommend that you look into it.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, and so the conclusion here, listening to the pros, listening to the cons, is really exploring and reviewing the internships that are out there. Talk to people that have actually gone through these returnship programs. Here, number one, they can be really helpful in getting you through the process.
That's right.
We see that all the time on our Slack and our Slack community. But it also can be a great way for you to just slow things down and be discerning with what you're going to commit to, because you might not be someone who needs a returnship. You might be someone who could just go out and land a job on your own using some of the, important strategies that we teach all over this YouTube channel.
One of our favorite stories of a returnship, really to the abridged version, was a woman who was trying to get into this tech company, couldn't get in, and ended up saying, well, I'm going to go for a returnship otherwise, just because I can't get a regular job. And she was way overqualified for this returnship, and she came to get some interview help, and I was kind of biting my tongue, and I said, you know what, you don't need, this is ridiculous. You're going to be doing work for the person who works for the person who works for the person that you might be, you're qualified to be. But she said, I don't care, I just want to get in this company. And she was willing to take, she was a very senior level woman that was making probably in the 250 to 280 range. She was going to take a $32 an hour internship. So when she went to the final interview, I suggested that she tell them that. And she did. She said, why, when they asked her why she's here, she said, I'm here because I can't get a job at your organization otherwise, because I really shouldn't be here. Right. This is what I can do. They offered her the returnship, but when they sent her the offer letter the next day, it was for that 3-level up job.
Right. It was for an actual,
actual
full-time
employee
job.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
So if you liked what you heard today, you can like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you want to hear more about our programming and things that we offer, you can visit our website. It's www.preparetolaunchu.com. Thanks.